Welcome back. In this lesson, we'll look at functions, the building blocks of every Rust program. You'll learn how to define them, how to pass values in, and how to return values back out. Let's get started. You define a function in Rust with the fn keyword, followed by the function's name, a pair of parentheses, and a block of code inside curly braces. The name should use snake case, all lowercase, with underscores separating words. Every Rust program begins in a special function called main, which the compiler runs when your program starts. The order in which you define functions doesn't matter. Rust sees all of them. Functions become truly useful when they accept inputs, called parameters. In Rust, you must declare the type of every parameter. This is a deliberate design choice. By requiring types in function signatures, the compiler can check your calls throughout the codebase without having to guess. You can have multiple parameters separated by commas, and each one gets its own name and its own type. Once inside the function, parameters behave just like local variables. Here's a concept that trips up newcomers to Rust. Rust is an expression-based language, and the distinction between statements and expressions matters. A statement performs an action but does not return a value. The line let y equals 6 is a statement. It binds a value, but the statement itself has no value. An expression, on the other hand, evaluates to a value. The number 6 is an expression. A function call is an expression. A math operation is an expression. And crucially, a block of code wrapped in curly braces is also an expression. Its value is the value of the last expression inside it, as long as that line does not end with a semicolon. This is why, in Rust, you'll often see blocks used to compute values in line. Remember, semicolons turn expressions into statements. Functions can return values back to the code that called them. You declare the return type after the function's parameters using an arrow followed by the type. Inside the function, the return value is simply the final expression. No return keyword, no semicolon. You can still use the return keyword to exit a function early, and that's sometimes necessary. But idiomatic Rust favors the implicit return from the final expression. If a function doesn't return anything meaningful, its return type is the unit type, written as empty parentheses. But you rarely need to write that out, since it's the default. Let's put it all together. Here we have a function called area that takes a width and a height, both unsigned 32-bit integers, and returns their product. Notice the signature: two typed parameters, an arrow and a return type. The body is a single expression, width times height, with no semicolon, because that's the value we want to return. In main, we call it with two numbers and print the result: clean, explicit, and fully checked by the compiler. That's functions in Rust. You can now define them, pass parameters, return values, and read their signatures with confidence. In the next lesson, we'll look at conditional statements, the tools Rust gives you to make decisions. See you there.